secret that the 1988 Formula One season was nearly the perfect year. Well, perfect for one team. Between drivers Alain, Prost, and Ayrton, Senna, McLaren dominated with their MP4 winning every single Grand Prix, except one. It was the Italian Grand Prix at Monza. McLaren securing the front row as always, but early in the race, Alain Prost noticed gearbox problems, and rightly thinking his day would be over soon, he pushed Senna to the limit and caused him to burn just a little too much fuel. Late in the race, Senna babied the McLaren in an effort to stay ahead of the charging Ferraris, but an optimistic lunge on the lapped Williams of Jean-Louis Schlesser resulted in contact, a spin, a retirement, and an end to what could have been the perfect Formula One season. In retrospect, I'm not sure too many tears have been shed. McLaren's 1988 was still an amazing accomplishment that even Ferrari of the early 2000s couldn't replicate. A neat story in the history books, and one that seems more appropriate than ever these days. But most of all, and the reason I'm here today, is because it's a great excuse to go racing. Right, here we are in the front row of the grid alongside Senna. Lights are lit. Green, we're underway, and just watch that wheel spin off the line and get it up the gears. Senna runs away with it. I've got Berger alongside me as we'll run down to the first chicane. On the brakes, down a couple of gears, bounce off the curb. Senna bottoms out in front. There we go, through the first couple of chicanes, and we can say goodbye to the rest of the field. This is going to be quite a lot different than a lot of the usual races I do, because I don't think I'll be seeing any of the cars behind. We've just got to focus on Senna here in front and see if I can hound him like Prost did in real life, and maybe even get around him too, as a bit of oversteer coming through the second chicane will come to the Lesmos. First one here's in fourth gear. Up to fifth for the second one, just a breath of the throttle, set it through the apex, and run now down the long back section of the course towards Ascari. Fly underneath the oval, look for the 150 braking marker, just about there, heavy on the brakes, down to third. Use the inside curbing there and watch the curb on the right. Heavy on the throttle again, whoa, right out to the sand there on the exit, but got away with it. So we'll run down to top 5 favorite corners in the world for me, the Parabolica. Right before the 100 marker, brake it deep, down just a couple of gears, fourth gear. Ran it a little hot there, cold tires still on this first lap, but then run it out, back onto the front straightaway and complete a lap at Monza. Monza had changed so much at this time period as I missed the shift up to 6 speed in the MP4 keeps you quite busy on the H pattern. But since the late 70s, they had started, or mid 70s really, they had started installing these different chicanes around the course, and this configuration of Monza is quite a bit different than we know it as these days. A lot of folks really like that first chicane. Never been a big fan of chicanes myself, but in these cars, I think just the flat-out circuit would actually be quite boring. And so having the chicanes adds quite a lot to it, but it's still the low downforce, high-speed Monza. And AMS2 here, we actually do have low downforce versions of the cars. You can see they have smaller wings on them, as Senna is actually running away from me here. They do have lower downforce versions of the cars, and for years and years, and still to this day at Monza, because it is such a fast track, teams quite often prepare completely different aerodynamics for it. So fly through the Ascari chicane there. Dip out of the slipstream. Senna really quick in this, and you can see we're just absolutely demolishing the rest of the field. As we'll slide through the Parabolica a little bit. A little too much slip in it. Now I do think the MP4 here in Automobilista 2, reviewed it not that long ago, or took a look at it really when the Brazilian Legends pack came out that this car is a part of, and it might be my favorite car from that pack, which is saying quite a lot. There's a lot of good cars in there, but just how exposed you are in the cockpit and how fast it is, it's absolutely rapid. It's such a fun car to drive, and it's one I keep coming back to. I love how you can see the entire front suspension and front wheel, and you can place it exactly where you want to. It makes running around street courses or courses with chicanes and stuff like this a lot of fun, because you can just place the tires exactly where you want them. And you still have that H pattern gearbox to keep it interesting with the shifting. It's a very mechanical car, even with all of the tricks and aero and things that it's doing. But it was that dominant car, and it's maybe a bit too dominant in Automobilista 2 here. It's very, very fast. Will likely gap the field by some 30 seconds. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe we see a lapped car before the end of this in just this 10-lap race. But this car was so extremely dominant throughout the 1988 season that being up front with it just feels like the right place to be. Just nipping onto that slipstream of Senna. I have to try to see if I can put a few good laps together here to catch back up to him. 7 laps to go. It's going to run out real quick. Not quite as long as the 50-lap Grand Prix that they had here, but this was a quick race because of the high speeds. The Italian Grand Prix has never been a long Grand Prix, at least in the modern era. Get it up to 5th gear here through Curva Grande. Hot. You really want to get the inside curve through that second chicane to get the line right. We'll come up to the Lesmos then, 4th gear. It's a late apex through the first one. Can easily catch you out if you nip that curve too early. Second Lesmo, a little bit faster. We'll fly down the back straight away. The Italian Grand Prix was a special Grand Prix in 1988. It was the first Italian Grand Prix after Enzo Ferrari had passed away. And the tifosi, the spectators, the Ferrari supporters in Italy were just hoping and praying, you could probably say, for a Ferrari victory. And the fact that they got it with how the season was looking, with Gerhard Berger coming away the victor at their home circuit, it's kind of a storybook ending. But it almost didn't happen. If you look throughout the 1988 season, although Prost and Senna dominated 16 of the 17 races of the season, it was not just a runaway victory in every single one of those. There were quite a few that were fought, and I think what's incredible is how few mechanical failures they both suffered in any race. It seems like in almost every race, either Prost or Senna had some sort of failure, some sort of issue with the car, like Prost in this race with the gearbox issues, the engine issues that he had. But always one of them would come through and be able to take that victory. And almost that perfect season. Senna could have easily won this race, or maybe not easily, but he could have won this race had he not had the accident with the lapped car. But because Prost here had pushed him so hard the whole race, he burnt too much fuel and was having to take some chances towards the end to stay in front of the Ferraris who were coming hard for him. So the Ferraris earned the victory. It didn't just fall into their lap. They were pushing Senna as well towards the end of it. Just a really dynamic and interesting Grand Prix. Automobilista 2 gives such a great immersion of driving cars, and I want to not commentate for a lap, just let you listen on board as I try to focus here to catch Senna and just enjoy how awesome this is. tense that lap. I'll have to see if I can really push here towards the end of this to catch up to him and make the pass. Catching up's one thing, passing is another, but the slipstream is quite strong, I've found, in these cars. But how awesome does this sound? I don't think Automobilista 2 gets enough credit for the sounds. I noticed it quite a lot when I was racing the Formula Junior. I recently did a video of that, especially the external sounds, but even the internal ones is a little too hot, just catching the car. I think it sounds really, really nice. We've got awesome sounds like transmission wobble and things. Got up to 5th there. Cut my exit speed just a little bit. I'm really close to that slipstream. If I can just get a little bit closer, I'll be able to suck up right behind him. Downshifting and upshifting so much, you shift a lot in this car. Again, it's H pattern shifting, so it keeps you really busy. And it's really the limit. You can see why, or one of the reasons why they had sequential shifters not too long after this, with just how much work it is working up and down the box the whole time. A better solution was needed for these insane shifting speeds. Right, reeling them in now, just a few laps to go though. You won't see too much of it in this video, but I'm running the excellent 1988 skin pack by A. Fry. It was recently updated to include all the helmets and suits and everything. That's why you're seeing Senna's bright yellow helmet there in the car. I think it adds so much authenticity to this whole experience that it's absolutely awesome. And highly recommended. I think it's just that cherry on top. So we're really closing now. Right on his rear wing. If I can get a good exit here through the Lesmos, actually make this happen. Oh, I just nipped that curb just a little bit. Stay away from those. It's really fast through the second Lesmo. It's going to be a hard place to pass. But you can see the slipstream now. I'm pulling in on him. Touch the curbs. He jumps on that inside one. You can't do that. It's actually going to be a little bit slower through Ascari than me. Rifle up the gearbox. He's going to block the inside. Of course, you'd expect Senna to. We'll take it even more inside, though. Side by side down to the Parabolica. Oh, making contact. Off into the gravel, luckily able to get it out of the gravel trap. You know, I normally would redo a video like this with something like that, but that just feels so appropriately Prost and Senna, of course, having that very famous coming together at the second to last round of the season, that I'll leave this one in. We'll just try to bring it home to the finish. Still holding on to second. You have to imagine my left front suspension would be decimated from that impact in real life, but able to continue on here in the sim. Grinning a little bit from that. I don't know if it was my fault or not. I have to look at the replay, but I was making that lunge up the inside, going for the lead with just a couple laps to go, and making contact and sending me out of the race. Things I think so incredible about everything I'm doing here is that this is in the base game of Automobilista 2. For years and years, to do stuff like this, we've had to have mods and things, and yeah, I'm running a skin pack just to add a little more realism to it, but with a couple of the DLCs and things, you get these awesome historic versions of the circuits, you get these cool cars like the MP4 Ford. The rest of the grid is generic cars that are painted up to look like the other real ones, but it's a very enjoyable set of cars, all of these classic Formula cars, and especially this MP4 Ford. I think it's something really special, and I think Ryza, especially now that they've gotten some of those physics bugs worked out, it seems in general a lot more folks are enjoying the sim. I'm just so excited to see what they come out with next. These experiences are something really, really special. Let's work it through the curbs here. Final lap. A bit deflated, I wasn't able to get around Senna. But that's That's the way it goes sometimes when you have two hard-charging drivers at the front. You can draw a lot of parallels between the 1988 Formula One season and the season that we're currently in, or the past couple of years. I'm not a die-hard Formula One fan. I'm a motorsports fan in general, and I just think Formula One has these seasons that are dominant from certain cars, and that's just what you get when you have an open formula like you have it. There are other types of racing where everybody is equal and different drivers win every week, and Formula One, in my mind, is not that. You love the close seasons, you love the seasons where multiple drivers can win, but I think what makes those so special is that they are quite rare. And so you remember those awesome seasons of history. And you look back, and I think a lot of folks really like this whole era of the 1988 season, Senna and Prost and the McLarens and things. So who knows what we'll look back on in 35 years' time like we are with this. But a lot of fun. Couldn't quite get it over Senna there, but that's what you could expect, I guess, from one of the legends of all time. But still coming home a pretty decent second. I could just drive this car alone with nobody else on the circuit and would have a lot of fun. So I hope you had fun watching. I'm sure I'll be back soon with something else. Let me know if there's a car and a track that you'd like to see. But until then, this is GP Laps, and I'll see you all again next time.